Welcome to issue 219 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here we take a good look at that most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Bill, and joining us this evening is Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Good evening, sir. Welcome back to the lair.
Well, thanks for having me back. And also with us this evening is Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Bill. How's it going?
It's going great. Good to talk to you again.
Back. Yeah.
And also joining us, fresh out of Spot World this evening, is Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Bill. I don't know. Spot World's getting old, man.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
This is like 2 in a row for Mike.
Yeah, it's because I had my triumphant return, didn't I?
You did last week. Mm-hmm. Time stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's why someone's still living in that room.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to get a couple of these guys like a head minion loft area that they can share so that, we don't have to have them in the main area so much, but we'll look into that. So.
Yeah, my double bed isn't big enough for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
At least you say
Sorry about your chair. Sorry about your chair. I didn't mean to.
Well, Bill's on, Mike's on, Daniel's on, I am here. So the real big question is, Daniel.
Sir.
What is on your mind tonight?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question, Steve. On my mind tonight is a little letter, an email that we got from Kylo Vader 7777. It's not an email. It was an answer to a survey, right? Our 200 survey. We're still dealing with those, huh?
Yeah, working through some.
By the way, that's the best of the 8,000 Kylo Vaders, just so you know.
It really is. All right. So he asked a really fun question. If you were to steal a Marvel villain's costume for your own, whose would you steal and why would you look better in it? That's a great question, isn't it?
It's a good question.
That is really good.
Yeah. So many good ones.
So I've been thinking about this and I've been, doing a little working out, losing some weight. And so I think that I'm going to take the costume away from the Minion Blob.
Wow.
I think that I'm going to look
lost
better.
Some weight and you're going to wear Blob's costume?
Yeah, I think I'm going to look better in a diaper than he does.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Love it.
I thought a lot about this. I'm thinking about
I'm trying not to think a lot about it.
I know, me too. Holy cow.
I think about the costume that I've talked about more than other ones over the time here. Blob just sticks out. He's just one of my favorite diaper wearers. There's a couple of them, but
okay. Nice.
Yeah. Well,
nice.
Okay.
And you would look better in it, right?
I think I would look better in his undies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, I went another direction. I went looking good. Wow,
what are you saying?
Well, you know what? I was gonna say purple man because I look good in purple, and yeah, I could totally kick his ass in that.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a crack about Kraven, and then I googled Marvel top best dressed villains, and I'm posting this to our chat.
Yes.
But apparently, there is a cover from an X-Force issue where he is wearing the pelt of Beast.
Oh,
and that is badass.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was really cool.
Wow.
So shout out to that costume. I could not beat him in that because he's got the mustache. I don't have that, so I'm going to stick with Purple Man. But holy crap! Shout out to that costume.
Yeah.
Wow, that's unsettling.
We read the same article.
And I've never heard of that, so that's hilarious. I'd love to see it. I'm going to see a picture of that. All right. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, so I gave this some thought. I like to accessorize. So I think I'm going to go with Loki because of the crown. I can look good in like a small crown, a huge crown with the big horns, alligator crown, Loki, you name it. So I'm going to say Loki whenever he's wearing that crown. Really, it's all about the crown. So
of course, you went with a crown,
right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I was kicking that idea around too, but I mean, I want something that I can just hop in the car and go with, and I'm just not sure that that is so practical. The crown, when you hop in and you're trying to go somewhere, it's just
yeah, that's true.
Because I thought Hella, that would be kind of neat, like a male version of Hella. That'd be kind of cool too. But again, for the same reason, like you were trying to walk through the door. That's all you're trying to do. I just don't like being hindered that way. So, but I did kind of go with something that probably isn't most practical, and I have talked about it before, and that's Exodus. I absolutely love the colors of Exodus costume. We talked about that collar that's popped, and it's got that.
Is it like a frill behind him or something?
Yeah,
Cool, halo thing. It's really cool. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's something gives away his age. He's an old, 16th century kind of fella, crusader. I would like that for going out to somewhere fancy. But then if I just wanted to kind of hang out at home and just kind of relax, I kind of like the Mole Man's costume because it just looks very frumpy and just kind of sit around. It's almost like a big Snuggie. If you've seen the Mole Man, he too has a collar, that kind of goes up and be kind of like a hood. And so I thought for business and casual, that would be my costumes of choice.
Okay. Well, at least you didn't say Toad. Okay.
So. Well, I was thinking about that too, because
I mean, Daniel said the Blob, so I thought maybe Bill's going to say Toad. And
yeah. Okay. I mean, I was also thinking about balaclava just because I thought Mike would think it was funny. Ooh,
yeah.
Har.
Daniel, when we finally get Mike to like a con of villains or something, we all cosplay as a balaclava.
Done.
Okay.
As long as I can go the next day as the Blob.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
After hours.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kylo Vader. Now, you better write us in and say who your choice is. But that was from the 200 survey. Great question. Always a good time to think funny thoughts.
These guys are funny looking. A lot of them. You got to be honest. If you're honest, some of these are pretty bizarre.
Yeah, true. Well, speaking about bizarre, let's get into our topic for tonight. Bill's not just here to talk to us about costumes. Bill has come on because he's going to give us all of the lore. Okay, some of the lore about Spiral, right?
Right. Yeah.
Spiral is our next villain in the MojoMania pack. Let's hear about Spiral, and we're going to do what we did with Magog. We're going to talk about Spiral's lore. Then we're going to do all of her cards.
Brilliant.
Okay. So take it away, Bill.
All right, sounds great. So Spiral, her real name is Rita Wayward, and she made her Marvel comic debut in Long Shot #1, which was all the way back in 1985. So Long Shot #1 is the first time you see a glimpse of her. You don't really see much of her in that issue. And that is a 6-issue run of Long Shot from that year. It's not really until issue #2 that we really begin to learn the origins of Rita. And it's important to know that she doesn't begin her career as we typically think of her. She's not that 6-armed, sword-wielding warrior sorceress that we're used to seeing in comics and cartoons. No, her journey to becoming Spiral is kind of a bizarre story that's mostly tragic, and so it may be one that could kind of pull at your heartstrings, Daniel.
Okay, I'm ready for this then.
Okay, yeah. So she, of course, is a poor girl who's affiliated with the character whose main trait is spineless, Mojo, right? Because she's in the Mojo campaign here. But before all of that, Rita enjoyed her career as a stunt woman in movies. And it wasn't just a day job for her, it was her life. She loved doing stunts, she loved doing dangerous things. And in the comics, she's rendered as a very beautiful woman. In fact, she is a stunt double for actresses who are known for their beauty. And so her nickname as a stunt woman is Ricochet Rita, and her motto is the more dangerous the stunt in the movie, the better. She really loved the thrill and the freeness that performing these stunts could afford her, and she was fearless. Anything that the director could conjure up was not too dangerous for Rita. She loved it. So it's while she's working on an action movie that she crosses paths with a mutant named Longshot. And that's significant because where we're going to go in her story. Now, I don't know how far we want to dive into Longshot, Steve, because I know that this is a modular set after all, if you want to talk about that or not.
No, we're not going to talk about that. That's a modular
No, we'll talk
set
about that.
without any villain cards. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't deserve its own show.
Wow.
Right, so we can talk about Longshot tonight, is what Mike's saying.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, sure.
all right.
He's not going to get a
All
whole
right, so-
show. We wouldn't
I didn't know
we wouldn't talk about a hero for a whole show, right, Daniel? We wouldn't do that.
No.
Never.
He could be a footnote.
especially not one as cool as Longshot. And when you talk about like characters dressing up, this guy's got a mullet that, you know, somebody from the 80s would die for. So anyway, the short of it, Longshot, he was created on the Mojo world in the Mojo verse. He's one of those characters that would rise to fight his oppressors. I can't remember if it's in issue 1 or 2 of that 6-issue run, but in one of those early issues, there's a flashback to his creation, and from the beginning, he was immediately defiant of Mojo, and he's a freedom fighter. Really, he becomes that in this dimension. Now, eventually, he escapes to Earth, but he doesn't do so unharmed, and we might talk a little bit more about that later. But when he gets there, he's not himself. We'll just say that. So he ends up kind of crashing to Earth. He's being chased, really, but he crashes to Earth. He's interacting with people from Earth, and as the issue goes on, I kind of forgot how kind of dark and gritty comics from the 80s could get, but there's some kind of interesting stuff taking place there with the general population of people, you know, in that comic. But eventually he gets this name Longshot because of his extraordinary luck and agility. It becomes very evident that this guy's extremely lucky. He can evade dangerous things, and so those who observe him, they give him this nickname Longshot. And it's because of his skills then, this luck and agility that he has, that he gets hired as a stuntman in an action movie. So you could probably guess where this is going. You know, we started out talking about a stunt woman. Now we're talking about a stunt man. You know, this is one of those stories, boy meets girl. Him and Rita, they start performing these very dangerous stunts together. And the next thing you know, just like in Hollywood, here they are, they're spending time together and they become an item. And they start spending a lot of time together. They get very close. Now, Mojo, in the meantime, he's not giving up on his quest to bring back Longshot. He's got some real beef with Longshot. He's sending his cronies to Earth to try to get Longshot back, including Pup. I remember you guys talking about Pup, you know. Yeah. So we'll bring back Pup here for this. Eventually, this would lead to Longshot then returning to the Mojo verse. But he doesn't travel there by himself. He takes his girlfriend with him, so Rita travels with him back to the Mojo verse. And so there's a lot of battles that take place between Longshot's forces and Mojo's forces. And while they are there, they do celebrate some small victories against Mojo's forces, but eventually the pair get captured by Mojo. They get separated. It's during this time of separation that Longshot gets his memory wiped. And it's because of that now that Rita tragically loses her boyfriend. He doesn't remember who she is anymore. They're separated. Whenever she does see him, he doesn't recognize her. And so eventually what would happen then is that Longshot would escape back to Earth. He would join forces with the X-Men, and you know, the X-Men, right? He would enjoy all the accolades that come along with being an X-Men. You know, he's kind of got almost like a celebrity status, right? He's living in a mansion with Professor X. He's out there on the basketball court playing with his new friends. He's hanging out with his new girlfriend, Dazzler. So he goes and finds a new
drop for Dazzler.
Yep. So he's living it up. Meanwhile, poor Rita, she remains as Mojo's prisoner for many years. For a long time, she's stuck there in the Mojo verse. All the while, she's putting up with torture, abuse, living in subhuman standards. In fact, her mind is being pushed to the brink of insanity because she's dealing with these horrible conditions, these spineless people who are doing terrible things to her. Eventually, Mojo gets the idea to start doing some rather heinous experiments on her, and he directs his scientists, Arise, to start doing body modifications on her. And that's where Rita becomes Spiral. That's where she starts getting these cybernetic implants. Notably, she would get extra arms added. So now instead of having 2 arms like a normal human, now she's got 6 arms. And so thoughts on that, guys? I mean, having extra arms, do you think that would be like a blessing or a curse? What do you think?
Well, you couldn't buy a shirt anymore. You'd have to get them all tailor-made.
That would be bad. Yeah.
But think of all
That's the only downside, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
That is. Yeah. I mean, you need like a couple extra pairs of gloves in the winter.
Right.
Yeah. You could get a lot of work done. You can get a lot of work done.
I was thinking, like, whenever we get together, my wife and I, and try to groom the cats, trim their nails. It would be nice if I had an extra arm that belonged to me when trying to do something like that, some kind of task like that.
You could play Marvel Champions 6-handed or 3-handed, I guess. Really, every pair could have a different hero. Yeah, that'd be great.
I think so too. I think probably the biggest problem would be sleeping, because how your arm goes to sleep. Now you got like 3 of them over there. Anyway, so it's not just these physical modifications that she would go through. She also is driven insane as her mind is being forcefully evolved. Now, what that means is that now it would be evolved to the point where she could see through to other dimensions. She could perform time travel, and now she could teleport herself and others because of this modification of her mind. And those abilities, they sound great, right? But it's just the road getting there, the torture that she had to go through to get to that point, having her mind scrambled to arrive to that point. That's the difficult part. And then to finish her training, she's taught dark arts, magic, and now she's a very powerful sorceress. But all these mods and all this training would eventually make her loyal to the servant as a servant of Mojo. And for a time, she was being used by Mojo. That's one of his aces, is Spiral. But their relationship was always very strained. It was never cordial. They had kind of a love-hate relationship, and eventually it would come to an end because now she's very bitter. She's bitter to learn that it was because of herself that she got teleported back through time, running into her old self. Now, if you go back to the issues there in the comic books, that she got teleported in time, she ran into her old self, which steered her to take on the role in the movie where she would eventually meet Longshot, fall in love with him, and that's where this whole cycle began.
Time stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
She's her own grandma. Nice.
Yeah. So she's very bitter, and now her ire is going to turn towards the guy who got her in this situation, and she's going to blame Longshot. And so she's mad at Longshot. In the meantime, what's he doing? He's hanging out there in the mansion, right? He's hanging out at the gym, watching TV.
With Dazzler.
Right. Sitting there next to her on the couch. He's playing games with his friends on Friday night, making podcasts. Do all the stuff that guys do. That's what he's doing. And on top of it, right, as you said, Mike, hanging out with his brand new flame. And so you can imagine how angry she is at him for the situation that he has gotten her in. So she's annoyed at him. She's annoyed at his new friends. And she decides to join the Freedom Force, which is a group of villains who were in opposition to the X-Men and the Avengers. But she was a very valuable member of that team because she could hold her own in battle. Her abilities would allow her to take down the big guys like Captain America, Captain Marvel, Iron Man. These were no problem for her in battle. She could take them out. Yeah. So she's very, very powerful. And then she ran a side hustle, which was the body shop, which dealt in cybernetic enhancements. So that's remember that? I don't know if you remember that or not, the body shop. But yeah, the Reavers were, those good old boys. They were her frequent customers. She also kitted out Deathstrike. She was a frequent customer of Spiral there at the body shop. Fun fact, it was actually Spiral that kitted out Psylocke with some cybernetic eyeballs, which worked great, by the way, except that Mojo still had the username and password to those eyeballs, so he could use Psylocke to spy on the X-Men because of that. Yeah, Yeah, so
I
Mojo.
remember that. I remember to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Keep
some
the
admin
username and
passwords.
password to the eyeballs so that you can spy on your enemies. Yeah, just get somebody like Spiral in your control, and there you go. So we talked a lot about her abilities. If we're keeping inventory, we learned that she has cybernetic enhancements, which includes extra arms, right? We also learned in her story that she could see across dimensions. We saw that she could time travel. She could teleport herself and others. And if we think about being able to travel through dimensions and being able to travel through time, not only would she teleport herself to other places on the planet, but then she could also do it to other dimensions and time travel, carrying others along with her. And she's also a very powerful dark sorceress, because these are the things that she was taught there by Mojo. Now, typically while performing these abilities that we just talked about, they would accompany a dance. So she would dance to get these abilities off. And the more elaborate the dance, the ability that she would have, it would be based upon how erratic that dance was that she performed. And if you watch like the 90s cartoons that had her in it, you would see that she's always kind of moving around doing some kind of a dance to pull these things off. Now, in addition to
shouldn't she have more legs instead of arms in order to dance better?
Possibly. I don't know.
You just end it with 2 left feet, and then it's just no good at all.
That's probably true.
Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to these, some of her other abilities are that she can manipulate energy, she can paralyze people, she can cancel other characters' superhuman abilities. She can just cancel them out because of her. I think that's because of some of the things that she learned in her black magic. She's highly skilled in hand-to-hand combat. She often uses multiple swords in battle. Right?
Okay, I was gonna say it's hand-to-hand combat.
Boom.
Right.
Thank you.
She has enhanced strength and reflexes. She can disguise herself on others. She can block mind control, and she's a genius in cybernetic and genetic manipulation. So really, Spiral is a very powerful and very dangerous villain, a force to be reckoned with in the Marvel universe. So that
sounds like it. Holy cow!
Spiral. Yep, she's pretty tough.
I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice humble beginnings. And then just is killer. I mean, that's the list of powers and abilities she has is ridiculous. So
yeah, and it really shows that this was a good selection for something that would be like a Mojo campaign, because she was so involved with Mojo. It's a pretty interesting story.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay. Well, let's find out if the cards hold up to her history and everything. So she is the second scenario in the MojoMania scenario pack. There are 12 total cards, 10 by title. Tonight we're going to look at all of them, and we'll take a look at Long Shot tonight instead of another night.
Hey, Bill, why don't you start us off by reading the Woman of the Hour?
Okay, let's take a look at Spiral. So there's 3 different versions of Spiral. Spiral 1, 2, and 3, and these are double-sided cards. So I'll just start with Spiral 1. She's a villain who has a scheme of 1, and she has an attack which is a star or a forced interrupt, and it says when Spiral would attack, she schemes instead. So on Spiral 1, she doesn't attack you, she can scheme when she attacks instead. And then Spiral, it says, cannot take damage or be stunned, and threat cannot be removed from the main scheme. So it's very unconventional from what we're used to, right, as far as a villain is concerned. Her second side, so that's her escaped mystic side, is her first side. Her second side of that card, Spiral 1, is a villain who has a scheme of 1, an attack of 1, and there's force responses next to both of those. And they are, after Spiral activates, place 1 teleport counter on her. So there's her teleport ability. And then it says there, she is a cornered mystic. If there are at least 3 teleport counters here, remove all of them and flip Spiral. So it's a villain that's going to flip back and forth.
Yeah, 3 per player.
3 per player. Yeah, 3 per player. Remove all of them and flip Spiral. So no doubt we'll see some ways that we can add teleport counters on her, I would imagine, as we go through the cards here. So, All right, so then whenever you get to Spiral 2, it's Scheme of 2, Attack of Star on her Mystic side, Escape Mystic side. Spiral cannot be damaged or stunned. Threat cannot be removed from the main scheme. Forced to interrupt. When Spiral would attack, she schemes instead, so it's the same. And then on her flip side, her cornered side, she now has a Scheme of 2 and Attack of 2, which is different from the 1/1 on Spiral 1. And then the big difference here is it says if there are at least 2 teleport counters here, remove all of them, or per player here, remove all of them, and flip Spiral, which is different than the 3 on number 1. And then whenever you get to the third Spiral, it's a Scheme of 2 on her Escaped Mystic side, and which is the same as before. As 2, I'm kind of flipping through these and looking and seeing. Spiral cannot take damage or be stunned, cannot remove threat from the main scheme. Force interrupt when Spiral would attack, she schemes instead, same as before. But when you flip her over to her cornered Mystic side, she has a Scheme of 2 and Attack of 3, so that goes up. And then as you get down in her text, she says if there's at least 3 teleport counters here, remove all of them and flip Spiral. So that kind of bounces around. Let's see if there's a force response. Yeah, same thing. Place 1 teleport counter here. So it adds a when revealed, Spiral attacks each player in player order, even in alter ego form.
Ooh.
That's when revealed.
Yeah.
With the 3 attack. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then so in her Stage 1, she has 13 hit points. Stage 2, she has 15 hit points. And Stage 3, 17 per player hit points. So those are all per player hit points on all 3 versions. So what do you think of that?
Yeah.
A mouthful, right?
Yeah, she's very different. She's got a whole thing going on because you start off on that escaped side where you can't damage her, you can't stun her, and you can't remove threat from the main scheme. And she's always scheming when she activates, right? She's going to either scheme or she's going to attack you, but she can't attack, so she's going to scheme. And that carries all the way through because the theme here we'll get to is she's hiding. She's escaped from you. You're chasing her down. So she's not around you, so she can't attack you. You can't attack her because the two of you are not in the same space, right? She's either teleported away or whatever she's doing. And eventually, which we'll get to, you flip her. So now that you flipped her, she can take damage. She can be stunned. You can remove threat from the main scheme because you're face to face.
Right.
But she doesn't stay that way for long.
But boy, does she fight you.
Yeah, she doesn't stay that way for long. And, in a couple 2-3 activations, she goes right back to escaping. So you have to keep up with that. Very interesting.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, very unconventional and very elusive, which really matches the theme of the character. She's bouncing around. She's very hard to pin down to do damage to her. So
I just love the art when she's on her cornered side and she puts up all 6 of her dukes. It's like, all right, come at me.
Yeah.
I do like that she can be confused. So you can kind of slow down her scheming that way, right? So
That's all you can do. That's all you can do to her.
Right. So this is one of those things that kind of reward might be the wrong word, but staying on alter ego, and if you can confuse her, that's really the only way to kind of game the timing of her putting so much threat on. I've only played her once, and I had a blast. We'll talk about that at the end, of course. I know there's been mixed reviews on her, but I just think she makes you play the game a different way.
Yeah, I played her for the first time while also playing with Wolverine for the first time with his pre-con, and he did not fare well.
Oh, I bet not.
Oh, I can't thwart, hey?
This is more of a thinking man's quest. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's great.
Imagine what Hulk would go through trying to take on Spiral.
Well, let's talk. We need to talk more, Steve, about
let's
how
keep going,
she
Hulk might be okay. Yeah. Daniel, why don't you give us the main scheme? So let's get some more information.
So the main scheme is across the Mojoverse, 1A. All right. So content Spiral 1 and 2, or 2 and 3 if you're expert. Spiral in the standard encounter sets. 3 modular encounter sets from the MojoMania scenario pack. So that's telling you 3 of those environment-y ones, right? So sci-fi and sitcom and crime or whatever. Setup.
No No options to customize.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like you can. I mean, you can always add more, right? The me rule of setup.
Yeah, I suppose you could.
Sure, why not, right?
Yeah.
Put the search for spiral side scheme in one random show environment into play. Shuffle each other's show environment together with the cornered treachery to create the show deck. See rulebook page 11, flip spiral to her escaped side. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about that show deck?
Sure. So the show deck is going to be, you play with the 3 modular sets, right? Sitcom, Western, crime, fantasy, horror. And each one of those has a show environment card that kind of is the key to that modular set. So you're going to take those 3, you're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to randomly deal one of those. Going to start and play, and the other ones become this show deck along with the cornered treachery.
Okay.
And that show deck is off to the side. It cannot be affected by player cards at all. You can't target it with Cosmo. You can't do anything to that deck with a player card.
And Steve, all those other cards from those decks start in the encounter deck, right?
Right. You're just pulling the environment, the show traded environment.
You can have a dragon and what else?
Yeah, the one with the breakup.
And yeah.
Yep.
That's
Gunslinger.
I think that's why I enjoyed this one so much. Okay. So then we flip it to 1B.
And you're going to only interact with that deck somehow else through the scenario, which we'll get to.
Sure. Let's see how that might happen. Across the Mojoverse is side 1B. It has 15 threat per player. If you want to return home, you'll need the help of the teleporting sorceress Spiral. But she will need some convincing. Force interrupt. When a show environment would be discarded, place it on the bottom of the show deck instead. And this is a 1-scheme fight here. If it's completed, we lose. We win if it's completed. Starts with 1 per player and goes up 1 per player. Cool.
Right.
All right.
So there isn't a show deck discard pile, because if a show environment leaves play, it goes on the bottom.
So it kind of cycles through.
Right. It pushes the goal for the heroes is to get that cornered card. So you need a cycle, not shuffle.
Well, I think that's the next place to go, Steve, is the cornered card.
All right. So before we get to cornered, let's talk about the side scheme because it's all related. This is the search for Spiral. Spiral is hiding in one of the numerous television programs Mojo is producing. This is permanent, and it has 3 threat per player on it. Force response: after the last threat is removed from here, the player who removed that threat reveals the top card of the show deck and then places 3 threat per player here. As a hero action, take 2 damage to remove 3 threat from here.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Now, can you do that as many times as you want? There's no limit, right?
Correct.
Okay. So Hulk would be good.
So I see him just like running right through the props and the
walls.
Right.
Yeah. He's smashing. It's a classic scene of him like smashing from room to room, and as he busts through a wall, now he's in a Western movie, and busts through the next wall, and it's a sci-fi movie. Yeah.
All right, Mike, you know me well. What's my problem with this card?
What is your problem with this card?
Well, it's called the Search for Spiral, but it seems really easy to identify her in the art.
Oh. Hey, where'd you get the trench coat?
I mean, she's a little more clever than Carmen Sandiego. At least she's, trying to blend in with the color palette. But yeah,
I guess it just doesn't seem that the search is very difficult.
Cool. They got Waldo in there too. You see him?
Where's Waldo?
Wait, where are her arms in there?
Oh, she could probably tuck them into the trench coat.
It looks like the back of her coat is.
The back of her coat's like lifted. Yeah,
all the arms.
You're right.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so here you go. Let's talk solo. In a solo game, you remove 3 threat from here in any means you want. You can't remove threat from the main scheme, but you can remove threat from here. So you either thwart or you take damage, and you remove 3 threat from here. That lets you reveal the top card of the show deck. That's the only way you interact with the show deck. Then you put 3 threat back on here, right? So there's always going to be threat on the side scheme. However, I believe it's considered defeating the side scheme when you remove all the threat from it. Maybe not. That's a rule I'm not 100% sure on. Because if that's the case, this fuels things like Field Investigator.
Well, I don't think.
Yeah, like followed or.
Aren't there
followed.
distinctions between defeating side schemes and when you remove the last threat from one?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna have
Because
to
there
look
are
at that.
cards that say both of those things, right?
Yeah, there might be, because this is a forced response that happens after the threat is removed, so it might circumvent the defeat. I have to check the
I feel like
giant
it is
list
not ever
of.
defeated. It's never defeated, but it is brought to 0 for some of those card effects.
So in the rules reference, it says if a character has fewer remaining hit points, 0 or fewer remaining hit points, or if a side scheme has no threat on it, it is defeated. So when it gets down to no threat, it's defeated.
Interesting.
Now,
Interesting.
is that language just there for the main scheme, I guess? Because you do a thing, and I forget what justice cards they are. You do a thing, and then it says if there's no threat on the scheme, do a thing. But you're not going to defeat it since it's the main scheme. So maybe it's only worded for that.
Oh yeah, it's probably only worded for the main scheme. Now it doesn't leave play because it is a permanent card.
Can I talk about the permanent in the FAQ here, or the rules reference?
So does it reference defeated?
Yeah.
Or
So if it's something is permanent, it says a card with the permanent keyword cannot be defeated, leave play, or have any part of its text box blanked.
So,
Oh,
that's it right there.
There you go, then.
Okay. So it's not defeated. It is just
Brought to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Brought to 0. Okay.
Take that, Justice.
Yeah, that's great. So
Losers.
that one card from Cable, that one doesn't work, right? So
No,
that's
it won't
pretty
work on there. No. So anything that's permanent, if it loses all of its threat, it is not defeated.
Fascinating. All right.
Good.
We learned something tonight.
Okay, so now we haven't defeated the search for Spiral, but we have triggered its forced response, and we're going to now look at cornered with the exclamation point. So when revealed, flip Spiral to her cornered side. This will cause her when revealed text, if any, to resolve. Reveal the top card of the show deck. Shuffle this card into the show deck. This effect cannot be canceled. It has no boost icons. So there you go. You remove all the threat from Search for Spiral, triggering its forced response, drawing the top card of the show deck. Maybe you get cornered, and if you do, you get to flip her to her corner side, where now she can take damage, she can be stunned, you can remove threat from the main scheme. Also, you might trigger her when revealed text, which is only if you're playing her on Expert and you've reached level 3. You are also then going to reveal the top card of the show deck after you've revealed cornered, so you will change your setting, and then you're going to shuffle this back into the show deck, and there you go. You've now can do battle with Spiral. It's not complicated at all.
Nope. And you get a good while to try to confront her.
15 threat per player. 15 threat per player is but you can't really dilly-dally too long. But the nice thing that FFG did, because they have all this hero bias, is they said, you know what? Take 2 damage and clear the search for Spiral, right? Like in a solo game. Or if you're playing 4 players, everybody takes 2 damage. You're not being attacked. She's only scheming against you. She's not attacking you, so you're not taking damage during the attack phase. Here's 2 damage, and you could dig in a 4-player game. You can dig for 4 cards, and there's only 4 cards in there. Or fewer than that, right? There's only 3 cards in there. You're going to find cornered. So that's going to let you...
Sure, but she's no chump on her cornered side.
Right, once you flip her
and
to
you've
her
taken all that
side,
damage to find her.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you get, based on her card, you get a good amount of time to deal with her. 3 teleport counters per player is when she flips, right?
Yep, 3, 2, 3.
So Bill was right. I think he presaged that there might be ways to speed that up. But
all right. Well, you said she's no chump when she attacks, and that's mostly, I think, because of the next card. So I think it's Bill's turn. Bill.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're looking at Spiral Swords.
Yeah.
She has 2 swords. It's an attachment weapon attached to Spiral. Uses 3 sword counters. Spiral gets +1 attack for each sword counter on her. +1 attack for each sword counter. It says, hero action, if Spiral is on her cornered side, spend 2 physical resources, to remove 1 sword counter from this card. What a nice attachment. Boy. And the boost, there's 3 boost icons on this card. 3. And it says, and the text says, don't know how she keeps from losing an arm. And that's from Gambit.
Theme home run, because if both swords are out, that's 6 counters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she could be a plus 6.
Oh, 6? Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so you could spend the entire time that she is on her cornered side just getting rid of her swords.
Because they don't go away, right? She attacks.
Nope, only if you spend 2 fist resources.
Yeah, they don't like drop after every. No, wow.
Right. Yeah, even though they're uses, and they're only uses so that when you remove the last one, the rules are in place for it to go away. It's not like she attacks and she loses a counter, like some cards might be, like Crossbones machine gun is, as he uses it up, it will fall off on its own. No, this is spend 2 physical resources to get rid of one. Now you could somehow spend 6 in one turn to clear it off, but
once again, the Hulk can do it.
Yeah, if he can
muster he can pull
up 6 resources.
Yeah,
but you have to do it when she's cornered, so you've done that. Great.
Right, and you haven't done damage to her. Instead you tried to remove some swords. So, and I think that's Gambit in the art back there. So that has quotes on there.
And when you corner her in her final stage of expert, now she's
she's
already hitting for 9. Everybody.
Now, if she had some overkill, that would there's some overkill cards with overkill to her in order to really ramp her up.
So, she's taken out Tony Stark, or she may take out Captain America, like we learned she can do. So,
right, there's some treacheries in here.
Yeah, let's get to this first one. Erratic teleportation. There's 2 of them in the deck. Surge. So already you know it's great. When revealed, if Spiral is on her cornered side, place 1 teleport counter on her. If Spiral is on her escape side, you may spend a nerd resource to look at the top card of the show deck and put it on the top or bottom of that deck. 1 boost. That's cool.
Yeah, it's nice. Just to speed the game up a little bit, because you don't want to get hit by bad RNG. Make for a bad play experience.
Yeah.
It surges, so it replaces itself after it goes off.
Yeah, she's gonna flip back quicker, or you have a little bit of a chance to see what's next, and you can tuck a bad card on the bottom. Keep moving. You keep moving because Mike, you know what?
The show must go on.
Yeah, exactly.
When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a card from the same encounter set as the current show environment, and then you deal that card to themselves as a face-down encounter card and do the shuffle. 3 boost icons.
3 boost icons too.
Yeah. Okay. So good. Yeah. Show must go on. So get those combos going.
Yeah,
it's a neat idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And in a this card is worse in multiplayer because you just in a solo it just replaces itself, right? But 4-player, you just gave everybody else another encounter card, maybe a second one.
And it will be all from the same encounter set. So like everybody will have to pick which one they want. It really narrows your picks, so that could start a fight, right?
Who gets the
I want the goblin, you get the dragon. Now, however, you could also, like in horror, you could go get the bandolier of stakes, right? Yeah. I think that maybe has surge on it though. So, but yeah, it's just one.
It's going to be a discussion though when it happens. There's going to be some negotiating.
Definitely. All right. Spiral is well armed.
I did it.
Hey.
But I'm ching. Okay, this is a treachery. When revealed, if a copy of Spiral's swords is attached to Spiral, she attacks you, even if you are in alter ego form. Otherwise, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of Spiral's swords and attach it to her. Shuffle 1 boost icon.
Oh no, that's dangerous.
So there's something to consider here. If she's not cornered, if she has escaped, yes, she initiates an attack against you, but when she would attack, she schemes. So she's going to be putting threat out with this card, or she's going to be attacking you for 6 or something. So,
while you're safely tucked away in alter ego.
Yeah, and even if you're in hero form. Now, then again, if she doesn't have the swords attached, she goes and gets a sword. So that's nice too. Yeah, it's got a lot of layers to it. So
Yeah.
One of those cards you gotta kind of read the whole if this, then this, otherwise that. So yeah. I like it fetches the swords, which is great, or it makes her attack you with the swords, or just she's scheming for more.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. That's all the cards in the spiral scenario. 12 total cards. 3 of them are the hero. One of them is the main scheme. One of them is the side scheme. One of them is that cornered card. So you're only shuffling in 2, 4, 5, 6 cards into the encounter deck. 6 cards.
Yep.
Add standard to 13. And then...
And you're peeling all the environments out of the other sets that you shuffle in. So was that 5?
Yeah, so 15 more. Yeah. So you're putting 31 cards in the deck. It's fairly small.
And most of the time you're in Mojo's TV set.
Yeah.
So, wow.
But there is one more card we want to talk about. Bill, you go ahead. You do the last card.
Okay, so it's an encounter card. It's its own modular set, really. It's Longshot. He's an ally that goes in the encounter set, so that's not fair, right? An ally has a thwart of 2, an attack of 2, and there is an action to that attack. It says Longshot's attacks gain piercing, 3 health. Longshot does not count against your ally limit, and he's when revealed, put Longshot into play under your control. This card gains Surge. This effect cannot be canceled.
Yeah, you can't cancel putting Longshot into play.
Yeah. I mean, he's an X-Men, so maybe if you're playing some all-Avenger build, you don't want him to come out, but yeah.
More love for the heroes.
Now, he can go in any deck. Technically, he can be played in whatever you want, I think, but he's also integral to the campaign, the mini campaign. So, but since he started with her, it only makes sense we look at his card today.
That's very thematic, and I think that's the point where he comes out into the campaign, right? Is whenever you're taking her on in the campaign.
No, he can be put in with Magog in the campaign.
Oh, he can?
You just shuffle him into the encounter deck. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. What it is you're recording if he's still in play at the end of the scenario after Magog, and if he is
gotcha. Okay.
Still in play, then he starts in play for you when you start this one. So I guess he hasn't got his amnesia. He remembers her still. So
back in that issue 1 of Longshot, there was Magog in there, right? And then Pup was in there too. So Pup is his little buddy. He's following alongside of him. That's where he gets the name Pup, is from hanging out with Longshot.
All right, so let's talk overall. Daniel, I know you always have some thoughts. Fun, not fun? What do you think?
I think it's great. I think it's so fun how you have to approach this one so differently. And even when you finally corner her, that's the only time to remove threat too. So you've got to split your, in solo, it's very tricky. All right, I can finally damage her, but I've got to manage this threat. I just think it's so cool. Absolutely love this encounter. I'd put it top 5.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I put it at my bottom 3, which I think maybe was a mistake. I don't know what I was thinking of that day, but somebody else talk about it next.
Okay, I'm pro Spiral. I wouldn't say necessarily top or bottom. Neat changes the game up, and I think that might be why some people don't like it so much, because it's really hard to pull up as a pick up and play, and you have to. It can get long. I've played it solo and 2-player, and if you play it smartly, it's not bad. It's certainly not Sabretooth bad. I'm curious how it plays with 4-player, though, if that gets a little strenuous. Does anyone have any 4-player?
I've done both. I played 4-player and I played solo. And in the 4-player, we found that there's enough thwarting and or hit points on the table where you can search for Spiral, turn 1, boom, she's ready to go. We can do damage to her, remove threat, or a round or 2 in, because you only need to search. You might get lucky. There's only 3 cards in that settings deck, so you gotta. I feel like you have to just keep doing that. If flip her as quick as you can and keep her flipped, and I haven't had a problem doing that either way, because knowing that she's gonna flip back and she's gonna scheme instead of attack you. There's no minions here, so it depends on what your modular sets are that you might be taking damage from minions. Right? If you're playing with Crime, if you end up with Crime and Sitcom, there are no minions in those encounter sets. So you may only end up with, a Card Shark and a couple Gunslingers based on the luck of the draw. So you're not taking a lot of damage until she flips, but you can stun her. So once she flips, right? You flip her, you stun her. She doesn't teleport away. You have
Wait.
even more time.
You can't stun her.
Once
Oh
she's
no!
cornered,
When
you
she's
can.
cornered, you can. Yes.
When she's cornered, you
Yeah.
can. Yes. Once she's
So
cornered,
that
you can
nerfs
stun
all
her.
of her swords.
It nerfs her swords, it nerfs her teleport counters, right? So you can stun her and just beat up on her. In a solo game, that's like pretty good. Now you can't do that in multiplayer because once she's unstunned from the first player, off you go. But I haven't had too difficult of a time cornering her. I think if you don't corner her, yeah, that game can get away from you. That 15 threat on the main scheme can be deceiving. But it is buy you some time. It's only going up one per player, that kind of thing. But again, I don't know, you're playing sitcom and all your obligations have an acceleration on them. That's dangerous. So, you got 2 or 3 of them out, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I do like playing against Spiral. I really must have been having a bad day or
to say bottom 3, I think so.
Yeah, I think the knock against it for me though is 3 modular encounter sets from the MojoMania scenario pack, so it gets repetitive. We have discussed some that we don't like of those scenarios. Nobody was a big fan of crime. There's more threat on that one, which makes this harder though, honestly. So I guess, like Daniel said, you could just put a set in. It's gonna water it down. You're not gonna see her swords. You're not gonna see the show setting cards as much. But it would change it up. I guess you could just shuffle them in. We'll have to give that a try, Bill. We'll just shuffle in some other things.
I know. Yeah. To me, this is my favorite one for sure in the scenario pack that this comes in of all the Mojo ones. And one of my favorite ones in the game because I like that it's different, but it's just enough different. It's not terribly different, but it's just the right amount of different from the other kind of conventional villain encounter sets. I like the fact that it's thin. Some of my gripes, because I'm mainly a solo player here recently. I've been loving 2-player playing with Steve, but primarily as a solo player, some of those encounter sets can be real thick. Like Zola, I'm thinking like when you have like 4 copies of things and you just don't get to see very much of the encounter deck. I like the fact that this is a thinner encounter deck where you're going to see all the cards generally in a solo player game, and that it's also gonna feature those Mojo cards. So, like I said, I've never actually played this one in multiplayer yet. I'm looking forward to it. But cards that allow you to go fetch cards where you have a discussion like the show must go on. That seems like that would be really fun because that would generate some discussion and be a little bit puzzly there. I like that her attachments make sense for her. It feels very thematic. And I do really like the Mojo modular sets, especially the fantasy one that has the dragon and whatnot in it. And so you're gonna also feature those modular sets. And see, that's another thing that happens sometimes in a villain encounter set is that I don't really get to explore the modular set that I shuffled in that I wanted to play with because I'm primarily hitting a bunch of the villain cards. So in this one, you're going to actually be hitting a nice blend, almost an even amount of villain cards and then cards from each of the modular sets. So I think this was really well crafted. I think it was well made. I have a lot of fun playing this one. And again, Steve, I'm looking forward to playing this one with you too and seeing what we can do against it and maybe even trying out Hulk and see what he can do against the woman with all the arms. So
yeah, one of the points you made is it is different, but it's not super different. Like you have to work a little bit to make it a normal scenario, right? You have to do this. You got to search for her, find her, and then once you've done that, like it's game on normal, right? For a little while, and then she reverts back, and then yeah. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, love it.
Cool.
Okay, so out of 6 thumbs up, how many are you giving it?
3.5.
Ooh, 5.
Oh, did you break a thumb off or something? Ouch.
Have you seen that picture on her swords? None of those thumbs are intact.
I thought she was just at a barbecue slicing up some stuff, or maybe a Benihana kind of place. She's hibachi. That's it, hibachi. So, all right, Mike said 3.5. Daniel, I heard you say 5 in the background.
5.
There.
5.
Nice.
5 thumbs.
Bill?
I'm gonna give it 6 thumbs because I can't figure out something that I would change about this. I really like the way it's made. I think it's pretty well balanced,
Yeah,
and
that's a good
so
point.
I can't really find a way to improve this that would drastically change anything. So I'm really happy with it. Good job.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, that was a good show, guys. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for telling us all about her origin and a little bit about the Dastardly Longshot.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I like hanging out with you guys. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And folks can find Bill, the board game lawyer, out there on YouTube making content for this game and for Star Wars Unlimited, right? You got a little bit of that out there. So,
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to leave your thoughts about Longshot, get off the show. If you want to leave your thoughts about Spiral, please email them to criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook, and you can find our YouTube, Twitch, or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Foam Love, Wandering Tooth, and Board Game Lawyer. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Spiral, take us out.
Why don't you just leave me alone?